Right after I finished paying off their $212,000 mortgage, I got this anonymous video with a message that just said, "Watch this now." Curious, I opened it only to see my family showing the house to someone else, like it was already his. The guy believed he was getting it for an extra $40,000, and according to my family, that money was mine. They were laughing. I forwarded the video to our family group chat without saying a word, canceled the mortgage payment, and headed over with the deed in hand. But what really blindsided me wasn't outside, it was what I found inside. I was barely awake when my phone started buzzing like crazy on the nightstand. It was 3 a.m. Who the hell messages at that hour? My brain was still groggy, struggling to catch up with the fact that just the day before, I'd wired the final payment for my parents' house. All $212,000 done. I should have felt some kind of relief, maybe even pride. But instead, all I felt was a hollow, uneasy silence inside me. The message came from a number I didn't recognize. It read, "Watch this now," and had a video file attached. I hesitated. Part of me felt cautious, but exhaustion took the wheel. I hit play. The video started with jittery footage, clearly filmed inside my family's house. Then I heard my sister's voice, loud and sharp. "This guy really thinks the house is his? What a joke." The camera swept across the living room. There was my dad, laughing with a beer in his hand. Then my mom appeared, sipping wine, and said with a smirk, "40 grand extra, and it's yours," speaking to someone off camera. The screen finally showed a man I didn't recognize, looked to be in his mid-40s, kind of rough around the edges, grinning like he'd just won big. "He thinks it's his?" Seriously, my sister scoffed. "Yup. Paid the whole thing off, too." She laughed again. "But hey, toss in 40 grand and it's yours." The room erupted in laughter. My hands went numb. I almost dropped the phone. I watched the video again, hoping I'd misunderstood. But nope, the words didn't change. They were selling the house. The same house I had just finished paying off. I wanted to scream. Wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I dropped the video in the family group chat with one word, "Explain." Nothing. Not a single reply. 20 minutes later, I reversed the mortgage payment. Thankfully, it hadn't fully cleared yet. If they were planning to sell it, they weren't going to do it with my money. I pulled the deed from the drawer. My name was still on it. They weren't going to make a fool out of me. I got dressed, jumped in the car, and headed straight to the house. No calls. No texts. Just me, gripping the deed like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. But the real gut punch? It wasn't waiting at the front door, it was sitting inside that living room. I walked in, still clutching the deed, fury bubbling just beneath the surface. And there they were, my family, staring at me like I was the one causing trouble. My sister, Emily, was lounging on the couch, casually scrolling through her phone. Dad leaned in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, wearing that smug look I'd grown to despise. And Mom? She stood by the window, pretending to fix the blinds like she hadn't just helped betray me. "Explain the video," I said, holding up my phone. Silence. Then a sigh. Emily glanced up and rolled her eyes. "Oh, that? Come on, it was just a joke," she laughed. "A joke?" My voice trembled. "You're secretly selling the house I just paid off." "Not selling. Renting," Dad cut in, sounding calm, like he was correcting a minor misunderstanding. "It's just a business move. We needed a little extra money." "A business move?" I snapped. "You don't even own the house." I slapped the deed onto the coffee table. "My name's on the mortgage. I'm the one who paid for it." "Paid because we let you," Dad said, stepping forward, his expression darkening. "You needed to feel important. Like a hero. Well, congrats. You got what you wanted." "You're twisting this," I whispered, voice cracking. "I helped because you told me it was our family home." "And it is," Mom finally spoke, her voice soft, almost desperate. "For all of us. All of us? Or just you three? I shot back. You didn't even tell me you were renting it out. You lied. You used me. Emily leaned back with a cruel smile. Used you? Don't be dramatic. You're so thirsty for our approval, you'd pay for anything. It's actually kinda pathetic. The room started spinning. My chest was tight. All those years I spent worrying if I could handle both their bills and mine, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, just reduced to some twisted family joke. I turned to Mom. Did you know about this? Her eyes dropped to the floor. Your father said it was temporary, she murmured. Temporary? I snapped. Then why are you selling it for 40 grand more? Why the hell did you record yourselves laughing about me? You don't understand how these things work, Dad growled, stepping closer. That money was never yours. The house was never yours. You never saw me as family, I said, my hands shaking. I was just a wallet to you. Just support. I paid off your debts. Your mortgage. Your vacations. Emily's credit cards. I did all of it for you. And we never asked you to, Emily said coldly. You did it because you needed to feel like some savior. Guess what? Nobody cares. Silence. That thick, heavy silence that fills your ears like a scream. I looked around at the people I used to call family. Their faces didn't show guilt, just irritation, like I was ruining their little plan. Get out, Dad said, voice like ice. Get out of this house. I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. This is my house. I paid for it. Your house? Dad stepped so close, I could feel his breath. Sure, your name's on the paper. But this is our home. We built this life. You just paid for it. Something inside me broke. I picked up the deed again, fingers clenched around it, then slowly set it back down, my anger simmering just below the surface. You know what? Fine. Keep it. But you're gonna keep it without me. I stormed toward the front door, heart pounding, but Emily's voice rang out behind me. Wait. You forgot something, she called, laughing like it was all one big joke. I stopped. Slowly turned. She was holding up her phone, waving it at me like a trophy. Say cheese. The camera flashed. I'll post it in the group chat, she said with a smirk. Our dramatic brother, throwing another tantrum. Classic. My vision blurred with rage. I reached for the deed, gripped it tight, knuckles white, then set it down again, my whole body shaking. Go ahead, I growled. But when this falls apart, and it will, don't expect me to save you next time. I slammed the door so hard behind me, the sound echoed through the quiet street like a gunshot. But even as I walked away, their laughter followed me like a shadow. And deep down, I knew I wasn't finished. This wasn't over. It was just the beginning. When I got home, I didn't take off my coat. Didn't sit. Didn't breathe. I walked straight to my laptop, opened the video, the one with their laughter, their betrayal, and hit play. Watched it again. And again. Their voices cut through me. My father's mocking tone. He thinks it's his? And then, an extra 40 grand, and it's yours. I saved the video. Backed it up twice. This wasn't just evidence. It was ammunition. But I knew that just exposing them wouldn't be enough. They were masters at spinning lies, twisting the truth until I looked like the unstable one. Not this time. This time, I'd play it smart. I'd set the scene, lay the trap, and let the truth do the damage. I sent a message to the family group chat. We need to talk. Family meeting. Tomorrow. A few minutes later, Dad replied. Finally, you're coming to your senses. Then Mom chimed in, her trademark guilt-coated concern bleeding through the screen. We love you, honey. Let's work it out. And of course, Emily couldn't resist. Don't turn this into another drama. They had no clue I'd invited someone else. I booked a private room at a restaurant, the same one we'd used for birthdays, anniversaries, holidays that now felt like staged performances. I arrived early and told the waiter to serve only water. I needed them sober. I wanted every word to land clean. They walked in together, Dad with his smug confidence, Mom wearing that fake, worried mother expression, and Emily strutting in like she was heading for a stage. "Thanks for coming," I said, gesturing for them to sit. "We're here because we care," Dad said, folding his arms like a power move. I didn't respond. Instead, I placed my tablet in the center of the table and hit play. "This guy thinks the house is his? What a joke." Their voices filled the room, clear, loud, undeniable. The laughter. The mockery. The deal. 40,000 extra, Emily said. Dad's voice, smooth and smug. It was all there. Their faces drained of color. This is a misunderstanding," Dad stammered, reaching for the tablet. I slid it out of reach. "Misunderstanding?" I leaned in. "You were selling the house I paid for. I paid off every cent. And you laughed behind my back." "It was just a joke," Mom whispered, eyes darting to the floor. "A joke?" I spat. "Selling my house is a joke to you? Or are you just sorry you got caught?" Then the door opened. They turned. A man stepped in, mid-40s, graying hair, jaw tight, eyes hard. My parents' faces went ghost white. They knew exactly who he was. "Marcus," I said, waving him over. "Glad you could make it." Dad's voice cracked. You invited him?" "Of course I did," I said coldly. "After all, you tried to sell him my house." Marcus's expression was stone. "You told me it was yours," he said, glaring at Dad. "That it was a family property." "It is," Dad said weakly, his confidence starting to slip. "It's our family home." "No," I said, tossing a folder onto the table. "It's mine. My name is on the mortgage. My money paid for it. And I've got one more surprise." I pulled out another set of papers and slid them across the table. "Care to explain this?" Dad's face contorted as he flipped through the pages. Then his eyes went wide. This is a second mortgage," I cut in. "A loan you took out against my house. With forged documents. My signature. My ID." Mom gasped, hand flying to her mouth. No, there must be a mistake." "There's no mistake," I snapped. "It's all here. You forged my name. You tried to sell my house. You stole from me." "You don't understand," Dad said, voice cracking. "We needed the money. We thought." "You thought I'd stay blind," I said, ice in my voice. "You thought I'd keep paying. Keep sacrificing. Keep playing the fool." Marcus stood, his chair screeching across the floor. "I'm calling the police," he said, pulling out his phone. "Wait. Please," Mom pleaded, her voice shaking. "We can fix this. We're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Is that what you call this? Lies? Theft? Forgery?" "Please, son," Mom was crying now. "But Dad?" His mask cracked into something twisted. "You think you've won, don't you?" he snarled. "You think this is over?" "Oh, it's just starting," I said, standing. "Enjoy your family home." I turned toward the door, then Emily's voice cracked through the tension. "Wait." I paused. "You don't know everything," she said, her voice brittle. "This was Dad's idea. I didn't even want to sign it." I turned slowly. "Sign?" My tone dropped. "You signed the documents?" Her face went pale. Dad's eyes widened. "Shut up, Emily," he barked. But it was too late. I walked out, the air burning with tension, but not before I caught the horror in her eyes. 2 hours later, I was back home when my phone buzzed. A notification. An email. No subject. No text. Just one attachment. I downloaded it. An audio file. I clicked play. I signed the documents. You said it was just a formality, that he'd never know. Emily's voice shaky. Nervous. Don't worry. He's too stupid to figure it out, Dad's voice replied. And even if he does, we'll kill them back in like always. I leaned back in my chair, fury tightening around me like a steel vice. They were all in on it. They always had been. But now, I had everything. And I was going to bring them down hard. The moment I walked out of that gutted house with a bag full of stolen documents and mutilated photos, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't go home, I drove straight to the bank. It was almost closing time, but I didn't care. I marched up to the counter, dropped the bag on the desk, and demanded to speak to the branch manager. 5 minutes later, I was in his office. I laid everything out, the forged documents, the fake loan agreements, mortgages with my name but someone else's handwriting. His face paled as he flipped through the stack. "Sir, this is serious fraud," he stammered. "No," I said, leaning in, my voice steady. "This is a crime. I want every account tied to these people frozen. I want a full investigation. And I want a formal statement from this bank acknowledging that I was a victim of forgery." He didn't argue. Within minutes, calls were being made, security brought in. My family's accounts? Frozen. From the bank, I drove straight to the courthouse. I didn't care about the hour. I didn't care about anything except one thing, making them pay. Filing the lawsuit was faster than I expected: fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. The clerk reviewed the evidence and shook his head. "They're not gonna see this coming," he muttered, almost sympathetically. Good. I didn't need sympathy. I needed justice. But I wasn't finished. When I got home, I grabbed my phone and opened the family group chat. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I sent photos, clear images of the forged documents, the mutilated family pictures, my name scribbled on papers I'd never touched. Within minutes, the chat lit up. "Mom, please, honey, we can talk about this." "Dad, you don't understand, it's not what it looks like." "Emily, this is all a misunderstanding. Let's talk, please." I ignored them. Then I blocked them. Still, I wasn't done. I had to see the wreckage for myself. Had to stand in the place where they tried to bury me. So I went back. Back to the empty house. The silence was deafening now, every echo a reminder of what had been taken. Nothing but shadows. Nothing but absence. They had erased me, bled everything I paid for, and disappeared. But the basement still held the truth. I descended the creaking stairs, my flashlight cutting through thick darkness. The chest was still there, open. The forged documents and mutilated photos were scattered across the cold concrete. But then I saw something else. A dusty, forgotten box shoved into the corner. I pulled it out, pried it open, and froze. It was full of old family photo albums, but each one had been desecrated. My face scratched out. My image cut away. Whole pages torn out as if I'd never existed. Rage erupted inside me like fire through dry brush. I gathered everything, the albums, the documents, and left that tomb behind. They thought they could erase me. Laugh at me. Steal from me. Sell the house I paid for. They thought wrong. The next morning, the bank called. My father had tried to access his frozen account. My mother's credit card? Declined. Emily's car loan? Blocked. They were trapped. Then came the real blow. The lawsuit papers were delivered, served publicly at their new rented apartment. A friend of mine sent me a picture. Dad's face twisted in disbelief. Mom's eyes wide with fresh tears. Emily screaming at the delivery guy. They tried calling. Blocked. Tried emailing. Blocked. Tried reaching out through mutual friends, spinning their sob story he's destroying his own family. But I had the receipts. I sent them to anyone who asked. Days bled into weeks, and finally, the court date arrived. They showed up looking hollow. Desperate. Clutching folders stuffed with excuses. I walked in calm, collected, a file of hard evidence under my arm. The judge didn't need an hour. The forged signatures. The loan documents. The mutilated photos. Undeniable. They tried to speak, but their lies unraveled before they could even find footing. The verdict hit like a hammer. They were ordered to repay every cent I'd ever spent, utilities, credit cards, vacations, everything. And the house? Legally declared mine. Not just in name, fully, officially, mine. They looked at me like I was the monster. The villain in their fairy tale. Please, Mom whispered through tears, we can fix this. We can be a family again. No, I said, my voice like ice. I already have a family. Me. I walked out without another word. But it wasn't over. When I returned to my house, they were waiting by the gate. Dad pacing, red-faced and furious. Mom sobbing, clinging to Emily, who stared at me with pure venom. You think you've won? Dad shouted. You think you can just erase us? Erase you? I laughed bitterly. You erased me the moment you cut me out of my own life. You erased me every time you stole, lied, and laughed while doing it. This guilt? This is all you have left. So live with it. Please, honey, Mom reached out. I stepped back. You are not my family. You're just strangers I wasted years saving. And with that, I stepped through the gate, locked it, and walked inside. That night, I changed every lock. Cleaned every corner. Burned the albums. Shredded the documents. The next morning, I brewed a fresh cup of coffee and stood by the window as the sun rose over the empty, silent street. My house. My life. No more shadows. No more ghosts. Just peace. The house was mine. Not just on paper. Truly, entirely mine. The first thing I did was change the locks. Heavy, reinforced ones, each turn of the key a firm reminder, they couldn't just walk back in. They couldn't claim my life, my space, ever again. I painted the walls a warm, clean white. Swapped out the faded curtains for something lighter, something that let the sun spill in. Room by room, I undid the damage. New furniture, mine. New appliances, mine. The silence? It wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. But the real victory came 3 weeks later. The first check arrived in the mail, certified, court-ordered, with a crisp letterhead. $32,000. The first installment of what they owed me. I didn't touch it at first. Just stared at it. It felt like a piece of them, clinging, pathetic. But then I cashed it. No hesitation. And they kept coming. Week after week. Mom's trembling handwriting on the envelopes. Dad's angry signature scrawled across each check. Even Emily sent a note once. I'm sorry. Please, just let this end. Not my problem anymore. They could cry. They could beg. They could scream. I had one. The money piled up, and with every dollar, another weight fell off my shoulders. $50,000. $100,000. By the time the final payment arrived, $52,000 in total, they had paid for every cent they stole. I wasn't just free. I was whole. Richer, yes, but more than that, I was finally untethered. It was never about the money. It was about the quiet. No more texts. No more desperate voicemails. No more guilt-ridden family group chats, where they once laughed, manipulated, and gaslit. My phone was clean. No missed calls from them. No notifications. Just peace earned, long overdue. I used the money to finish the house the right way. A solid oak dining table, something I chose. Soft leather couches that were actually comfortable, not the sagging hand-me-downs they pretended were vintage. I filled the walls with my own photographs, landscapes, cityscapes, small moments I'd captured just for me. Not for approval. Not for applause. Just because I wanted to. One evening, I found the old chest. The same one from the basement. Still full of the shredded photos and forged papers. I carried it outside and placed it next to the metal barrel we used for garden waste. Then I lit a small, controlled fire. The flames climbed high, hungry. They devoured the twisted remains of their betrayal, turning lies into ash. I watched it burn. Felt the heat on my face. And I smiled. The smoke curled into the night sky, the past drifting away as ash. They had tried to take everything. Tried to erase me. Tried to make my life their safety net. But in the end, they paid. For every sin. Every lie. Every scar they left behind. I wasn't their savior. I wasn't their victim. I was free. Still standing on the porch, I let the cool night air wash over me. That's when I saw a car pull up. Familiar. Matt's. Emily's ex. The one I'd barely spoken to at family gatherings. He stepped out holding a six-pack of beer. "Didn't think you'd actually text me back," he said. "I wasn't sure it was you," I admitted. "But I figured it had to be." He chuckled as he walked up the steps. "Yeah. It was me. I filmed that video." "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. He leaned against the porch railing. "Because they did the same thing to me. Emily wanted me to take out loans for her. Some fake business pitch. When I said no, she dumped me." We stood there in silence for a moment, the quiet settling around us. "Guess I owe you," I said. He shrugged, smiled. "Watching their lies fall apart? That's thanks enough." He handed me one of the beers. I set it down on the porch rail, unopened. "Thanks, Matt. Take care of yourself." He nodded and walked back to his car. I stayed there, standing on my porch, as the night air settled in around me. No ghosts. No debts. No more pretending. Just me. For the first time in years, I was alive.